Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Love. I'm so excited to be joined by this beautiful human being, Nathalia Christensen. Nathalia, thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me, Robin. I'm so excited to speak to you.
I'm always so excited to speak to you. We had just such a great conversation on our Instagram Live at the end of June. Here we are in October already, 2024. Can't believe how fast time flies. But, you know, Nathalia, I'm so glad that we connected then and now today, because you are just an excellent, an excellent resource and teacher and coach, relationship coach, for helping people navigate through unhealthy relationships and identify really what is toxic in a relationship, what dynamics are at play, and helping people hopefully get out of these unhealthy relationships and move into, a place, obviously having healthier, better relationships. So that's really important. It's just this important work you're doing, Nathalia.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, that is an accurate description.
Tell us, I know you are a relationship coach. You're from Denmark. We just talked briefly before starting recording that you are living in Goa, India. I mean, I have heard so many amazing things about Goa. One day I'm going to go to India and I'll come see you because I've heard amazing things about Goa in particular. Tell us about yourself, like how you became a relationship coach. I know you're happily married now. And just like maybe just a little bit of an introduction on how you started in this business and where you're at now.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I started in this business by having a major life crisis, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how a lot of people end up being interested in self-development work, right? It's that we go through some kind of terrible experience. And so in my 20s, I was suffering from severe anxiety and nothing helped. I went to one therapist after the other, and I did so many different kind of things, and nothing really worked. And then I started exploring meditation and more of an alternative methods to kind of deal with this anxiety I was feeling. And I was realizing that this anxiety had been trying to teach me that I was not on the right path in my life. I was not doing the right things. I had chosen my education and my job not from the right place. I was just doing what everyone else wanted me to do. So I wasn't really happy, even though on paper I had a great life. I was living in Copenhagen in a lovely neighborhood. I had a great job in the media industry. I had a boyfriend. And, on paper, everything looked great, but I just wasn't happy. And I was having this extreme anxiety that was completely debilitating for my life at the time. So something had to happen, right? And so
your body was telling you, right? I mean, your mind, yep.
Physical, yes, anxiety is very physical, actually. It's not just in the mind, it's physical symptoms. I would get these rashes all over my face from the anxiety. I would get, and so I was just very unhealthy because of this anxiety. So I realized that I was not doing what was right for me. So I quit the job. At the time, I was also a singer. Actually, I had a record deal with a Danish what's it called? Sorry, again, I'm from Denmark. Sometimes I forget the words with a company. I had a record deal with a company. I quit that.
Like a record label, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Robin. I quit that. I ended the relationship I was in. I quit the apartment and I went to Costa Rica and I lived in the jungle for about a year. And in that year, I did a lot of soul searching. I know it sounds kind of cliche that, I went to the jungle and found myself, but I really kind of did, honestly. And when I think
a lot of people will do that. I think people are just like, I remember when I graduated with my degree, I was like, I'm going to backpack, travel the world. And I said this to my parents. I remember saying like, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do with my life after that, like while I'm on this journey, right? Like, I think people can resonate with that.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because it does put everything into perspective. The world is so much bigger than whatever town you're living in, city, or even country you're living in. And just being close to nature and meditating a lot. And I was doing a lot of these healing modalities and it really worked. And I don't have this anxiety anymore. I really don't. So it also really healed my anxiety. And when I came back, I just couldn't go back to the same lifestyle that I had before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to ask myself, what would I want to spend my time doing? What would make me happy to do every day? And this is it.
This is
Helping
it.
other people in these areas where I have expertise, and
Mm-hmm.
basically showing up every day and doing my best to make sure that my clients and whoever watch my videos online just get some help and information.
I love it. I really
Yeah.
think, like I said before, I think the work that you're doing is so important. And it's the reason why we're at Real Love Ready. That's what we're all about. It's like
Yeah,
helping all of us
I know.
cultivate good, beautiful, nourishing relationships in our lives. And what a difference
I
that
love it.
makes. And this isn't
Exactly.
just
I
for
love
intimate partnerships. This can be, I was talking to my boyfriend last night about this. I'm like, this could be familial. It could be like with a sibling, a parent, a coworker.
Yeah.
You know, you could find yourself in these unhealthy dynamics with anybody. But really,
Yeah.
it's really learning and gaining awareness around what that looks like, so that you can make those changes.
Exactly.
Right?
And yeah, I'm going to say that it's so true what you're saying, Robin,
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't necessarily only apply to, romantic relationships. Toxic relationships can come up in any constellation. It can even be your boss, your toxic boss, any constellation in your life. So it's
Yeah.
really important to educate ourselves on this topic, I think.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to just go back to what you were saying around anxiety, because I was in a very unhealthy marriage, which I'm out of now. Thank God. Thank the good Lord, really. Um, and I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, and I'm not an anxious person. Like, I'm like, where is this coming from? And our son is very sick. Like he has epilepsy and
Okay.
has a lot of health issues. And so, going through that, I'm thinking, oh, it's because of my son, that I'm
Okay.
experiencing this, what I would term low grade anxiety. Although
Yeah.
a doctor had never diagnosed me with that. I'm thinking this is not normal for me, like to have these symptoms. But I really like, just even reflecting on what we're talking about right now, Natalia, it's like, it was this relationship that I was in. It was. And it was like my body was telling me, this is not right, you know? And now that I'm out of it and I'm, everything is quite resolved, I have no more anxiety. I really don't. I am good. I'm
Amazing.
solid again. I feel like I'm back on solid ground, and I'm not feeling those physical, very,
Yeah.
very, they were very strong symptoms. So
Wow.
that I just wanted to point that out, that a lot of people may be experiencing physical stuff because of course, the relationships they're in, whether it be an intimate partnership or another dynamic that they're embroiled in. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Very important point.
Can we just go into recognizing toxic behavior and how you're helping? Like when you've got clients that you're working with, Natalia, like what are they coming to you with, and like what are their questions are like, how do I know if I'm in an unhealthy relationship? How do I identify that?
Yeah. So I have a couple of different types of clients that come to me.
Okay.
Some of them have already identified that they are in a toxic relationship, or they have exited the toxic relationship, but they're having a hard time really moving on from the person. And others, they are in the midst of it and they can't really see clearly. All right. So I have
Yes.
both types of clients coming to me. And I always like to define a toxic relationship by saying a toxic relationship is a relationship where one or both parties are unwilling or unable to change their toxic behaviors. Because it's also a little bit harsh to say that you're not allowed to have any toxic behaviors in your relationship, because we all do. We're all
Yes.
flawed. We all
Yes.
have
And you
some
say that.
trauma,
Yes. We all,
right?
and they're, yes, of course, we're faulted.
Right. So
We're not
we're
perfect people. Of course not.
exactly.
Yeah.
So actually, two flawed people coming together is not a toxic relationship. relationship if both are willing and able to work through whatever they're going through. Let's say people who have insecure attachment styles, someone who has an anxious attachment style, someone who has an avoidant attachment style, they come together. Yeah, it looks pretty toxic in the beginning, but if they both want to work on it, then it's all good, right? Then we see some progress. Then there's a genuine effort towards bettering themselves and bettering the relationship. I wouldn't define that as toxic. It becomes toxic when someone isn't willing or able to do it. And it's usually one person. There's usually one person in the relationship who really wants to work on things, who is reading, books and going online and listening to podcasts and whatnot. And then the other person, for whatever reason, they don't do the same. And they don't want to.
I'm gonna give you an example of this, Nathalia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Because we had like four in our marriage, our very, very short marriage, marriage counselors. Okay. So we, I was hiring these people left, right, and center going like, please help. Okay. So that was okay.
That was you.
In the meantime, I do this for a living. I read, amazing relationship books and interview the experts that are here to help all of us in this realm. And I would say to my my husband at the time, can you please read this book? This is so full of information that we can both learn from, and tools, skills that we can learn and apply so that we can better this relationship, because we're in trouble. I want you to read this and then we can talk about it, please. Okay. And I'm asking, like begging almost. And no, I will not read that book. And all the reasons why, right? So that's a perfect example of like,
that's a perfect example. You were in a toxic relationship. There you have it.
Well, and my partner would not make the effort to change. Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I'm so happy that you got out of it. And it sounds like you're in a good marriage now.
Well, I'm not in a marriage, but a good relationship. But I just I just think like, but I think that's an example right there. Or what you're saying, Nathalia, is like you've got a person, like one person, or that is just not willing to grow or change. They're saying like they're not making the effort.
Exactly. And then, of course, they have to have some toxic behaviors, right? So we're talking about a relationship with their toxic behaviors and nobody wants to change.
Right.
Okay. If everything's just great and nobody wants to change, then there's not a problem. Right.
Right.
So
what would be some other behaviors or techniques the toxic person uses?
So we have the classic, for example, controlling behaviors is a huge red flag. Jealousy, extreme jealousy is a huge red flag. For someone to isolate you from your friends and family is a huge red flag, because that's usually a way that a person who doesn't have pure intentions can keep more control over you if you are less close with the people who could actually warn you and tell you that there's something off here with this relationship. It's also a red flag when you see extreme shifts. And by that, I mean going directly from a love bombing stage where everything has been too good to be true to the extreme, and then going straight into a phase where you're being completely devalued. You don't want someone who's switching on you like that. That switch, you see, and then maybe sometimes they'll come home and they'll be in a great mood and you'll get a little bit of that good loving or good love again, maybe good loving as well, but good love again that you used to get from the person, but then they'll switch. So it's like that Jekyll Hyde switch. Very, very bad sign. I mean, run if you experience that. Of course, we are all, during the honeymoon phase, we're all a little more in love with each other and showing ourselves from our best side. But I'm talking about more extreme examples of love bombing and devaluation.
Right.
That's definitely a sign too. And then just not respecting you, flirting with other people, maybe even in front of you, secretive behavior, lies, hiding their phone, etc.
Yeah.
Things that feel, always trust, for people who are listening, always trust your gut. Your gut knows.
Okay? Your
gut knows. Yeah. When something feels off, it usually is.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
What about triangulation. How does that show up? Like, how does that present itself? Like, can you give us some examples?
Yeah, I can give you some examples. Oh, it's actually very, very commonly used and it's very effective. So away triangulation, that the toxic person can use this manipulation tactic to make you feel bad or to make you do something that you don't want to do. They can, for example, triangulation is when a third party willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly becomes a part of the relationship. It can, for example, be that your partner always compares you to his ex. Okay, so suddenly it's not just the two of you, it's the three of you, and you're constantly being compared to this ex, and he'll say, oh, well, my ex, she always used to do the dishes when I was in her, you know what I mean? So, or like, it can also be let's say someone else's girlfriend, like, oh, look at my friend's girlfriend. She always wears a nice dress when she goes out. Just comments like that are examples of triangulation, and it's all designed to make the partner, the person, the victim feel bad and feel inferior and and it's very covert. It's not that direct. So sometimes it can be hard to catch it. It's like, was that really a dig? Like, was that meant to hurt me? Or was that just a general comment? So a
Exactly.
third person will be used to manipulate
Yeah.
in the relationship. And the third person doesn't have to be present
Yeah.
in the moment. Yeah.
So what you use the word covert. So what
Yeah.
is there are like there's like an overt like narcissistic behaviors and then there's covert.
Yeah.
So what would
Yeah.
be a way to differentiate those two?
Yeah. Okay. So the overt and the covert narcissistic behaviors. And by the way, I love that you say narcissistic behaviors because sometimes people can get very stuck on the fact, is this person a narcissist? Are they a diagnosed narcissist or not? It doesn't really matter. I always say it doesn't really
You
matter
say
if
that a
he
lot. You say that a
behaves,
lot, Natalia.
right?
Exactly. It's like
Yeah,
we're not here to
because
diagnose people. Um,
yeah, if the
who cares?
behaviors
Like
are
really, does it
there,
matter? Right.
it doesn't. If the behaviors are there, then they speak for themselves. So narcissistic behaviors are narcissistic behaviors, whether the person has NPD or not. So back to the question. Um, Overt narcissistic behaviors are what you would probably imagine a narcissist to be like. Very egocentrical, very loud, like super extreme level of confidence. It looks like confidence at least. Very selfish, walks all over people, probably cares a lot about their physical appearance to an extreme degree. That would be an example of a more overt expression of narcissistic traits, right? And using people left, right, and center without seemingly having any remorse. And then the covert narcissistic traits are more about playing victim, for example, being the victim, always using the victim card to manipulate people to do whatever the person wants. So the covert narcissistic traits are more subtle and more difficult to recognize. Okay, so
Definitely.
it doesn't look like a lot of confidence. It can actually look like the exact opposite, but the person is just using their own lack of self-esteem or victim mentality to control you and make you do whatever they want you to. And there's still no empathy there. The goal is the same. Both personality types, they want something from you, they want some kind of supply from you. They only care about themselves. They have very little empathy. So there are a lot of common denominators, but it just looks different in the expression of it.
Right. I've had this conversation with, unfortunately, too many of my good friends, family members. We are like strong, independent, good-hearted women who
Mm-hmm.
who've ended up in these very bad relationships. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how the hell did this happen? Right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
sure that you've got a lot of clients that are like us, Natalia. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
because it's like, how is this happening? You know, how is it that
Right.
these like really beautiful people, women that are like smart and
Mhm.
like ending up in these really shitty relationships? I mean, honestly, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, please, Natalia, help me understand why
Yeah.
how. Like, I mean, I'm out of it now, but I'm like, but this
Yeah.
isn't like it definitely happened, and I'm like, like I went through a
Mhm.
long period of shame. Like, how did this happen to me? Right? How did I
Well,
let this
yeah,
happen?
I
I'm over the shame
understand,
part
Robin.
now, but I mean, there was a lot of covert shit
Mhm.
going on
Mhm.
that I didn't see, or maybe I wasn't. Maybe there was a red flag or here, maybe yellow flags, a lot of yellow. But and then maybe I definitely I can say that.
Yeah.
Um, but
I mean, yeah,
okay, how are you
that's so
helping
valid.
women with that? You know?
Yeah, so it's just so valid what you're saying, and it's actually quite interesting because we imagine that a victim, like let's say a victim of narcissistic abuse, we imagine that person to be like very low confidence, very shy, but it's usually the opposite that is true because narcissists, let's just say people with narcissistic traits, now I'm doing it myself. People with narcissistic traits, they they are attracted to beauty, they are attracted to status, they're attracted to your sparkly personality. They want all that stuff. They're not looking for someone who's already behaving like a victim. They're looking for someone
Mm.
who's shining. Okay, so it's actually very
Yes.
common that it's these very beautiful, strong, successful women
Mm.
that you would never imagine something like this happening to. Okay, fun, it's not a fun fact, but a fact that is quite interesting is that, for example, you know the Spice Girls, right?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
we all do,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Melanie B Melanie B was the ultimate power woman. She was in an abusive relationship for 10 years and now she's come out of it and she talks about it. And so it's just a great example of the ultimate power woman. It's girl power, right? It's the Spice Girls.
Right. Right.
She ended up in an extremely abusive relationship with somebody. So
Yeah.
it happens to very strong women. Right? My theory is that when we end up in a toxic relationship, there is some kind of blind spot that we're not seeing. There is some reason that
Mm.
we choose to ignore those yellow or red flags. Part of the reason can be that we're simply naive and we don't maybe have a lot of experience. Maybe we have never heard of narcissistic behavior. Maybe we've never heard of toxic relationships. Probably not, right? You probably hadn't heard of it, right?
Oh, no, I was
So,
talking to like I'm a nurse that helps me take care of my son, and she's like that word didn't even exist until that term narcissism didn't exist like when she was married like for 18
yeah.
whatever years, but she was definitely with a narcissist, and she's like, how did I know? Like all these traits now that I know I'm out of it, she knows, right? But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. That there can be a certain amount of naivety.
Hmm.
Naivety is that how you say it in
Hmm.
English?
Yep.
And that of course plays a role. But then there is usually also because the thing is, at some points the yellow flags will turn red. In the beginning, they may be
Yes.
yellow. We give the person the benefit of the doubt, but there
Oh,
comes a
yes.
point in time where our friends and family they start getting worried. They start telling you that there's something up here. You don't seem happy. What is happening? He seems controlling or whatever it is. And by that point, of course, you have already been manipulated to a certain degree because it happens just a little bit at every day. So, for example, for you, Robin, it didn't happen on your first date that he was
Yeah.
being abusive. It wasn't on your first date, right? So it happened just 1% every day or less than 1%. And then over time, your boundaries, they got moved more and more and more and more. And 1 year, 2 years down the line, you can't even recognize yourself anymore. And you can't even recognize the kind of things that you're putting up with.
You're absolutely right. And like you said before, you said your family and friends at this point, they're saying, they're like, what in the heck is going on? Like they're getting concerned. Like I'm going to tell you, my daughters were like,
Oh,
Mom,
wow.
this isn't okay.
Oh my God.
My
Yeah.
kids. And
Yeah.
because they were suffering, right? And they're like, this guy is not cool, not good, Mom. And I'm like, and then they talk about triangulation because they would be
Okay.
brought into it, right? And all so this is
I
not about
understand, but
this is not Robin's relationship, but I
yeah,
just think all these
yeah,
these behaviors we can learn from, because it's like there was a lot of things that, yes, you're right, your boundaries, your belief systems begin to shift and change, and you're allowing more because you're thinking, well, and I think one of the biggest tactics is it's gaslighting, but it's
yeah.
like turning it
You're the
on you.
problem.
It's me.
Yeah,
Like it was
yeah,
distortion.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
the problem. I was
yeah.
looking at
Of
things
course.
wrong, right? It was
Yeah,
it's not him, it's me. Like,
yeah.
Robin, you're the one that's the problem here. It's your mothering. It's the kids that are acting this way. You have to change how you're mothering. It's like, it's
Exactly.
not him, it's them,
Exactly.
right? That whole,
Yeah.
and you're convinced of it. I was convinced of it.
And that and the yeah. And the problem
Yeah.
with that is that you start doubting your own reality, and then you're probably going to get more and more isolated from the people around you who are warning you, because everyone's warning you and they're sick and tired of hearing of this relationship. So maybe you stop calling them, maybe they stop calling you, and it just phases out a little bit over time. And suddenly you don't really have many people in your life to give you the help of reality testing. So suddenly this person's reality can become your reality. So one of the first things when people exit those toxic relationships is that they have to start trusting their
Yes.
own reality again. They have to start trusting their own gut feeling, their own intuition, because they've been taught to not trust that, but trust whatever that other person was saying, wanting them to do.
Oh my gosh, okay. So how are you helping people with skills and
Correct.
tools to recover,
Yeah,
to gain that again? That's
yeah,
really good. That's a really good point, Natalia. Like starting to
yeah.
know and trust yourself again.
Well, it's actually quite simple. First of all, you have to do your research on these behaviors, right? You have to listen to podcasts like your podcast. You have to really educate yourself and understand that this was
Yes.
something that was maybe systematically done to you. And there's an explanation for why you feel the way you feel. And then you have to start, because when you come out of a toxic relationship, you're hypervigilant. You've been trained to be hypervigilant. You're walking on eggshells constantly.
Yes, and anxious. I was so anxious. I was just like everything. My nervous
High
system was on
alert,
like
right?
absolute
Yeah,
like
because
yeah.
you had to walk on eggshells.
Hmm.
You had to be very hypervigilant. What mood is he in now? What mood? How should I behave according to his mood, etc. So you have to educate yourself, and then you have to ask yourself very simple questions. I mean, it's simple, but it's difficult. You have to start asking yourself, what do I want right now? How do I feel? What do I like? Maybe you've only been eating whatever he liked for dinner for 3 years. What do you like to make for dinner? So it's quite simple, but it takes a while for you to get to know yourself again. So it's kind of a journey of falling back in love with yourself and understanding who you are.
I love that. It is a journey
It
to
is.
start honoring
Wow.
yourself
So
again.
self-esteem,
Wow.
self-love, it's very connected. So it's really important to have a period of time
Yeah.
where it's all about you. Right after a toxic relationship, don't jump straight into the next relationship before you're ready. You need time to heal. It takes time. You need time to get to know yourself, and then you need time to figure out what can you do so that the history doesn't repeat itself. Because that's what we don't want, right? We can all
Yes. So
exactly.
what can you do?
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah.
How do you coach people with that? Please do tell you, because I'm sure people are saying, okay,
Yeah.
I'm out, I'm good, I've had time by myself,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm ready to date again. How do I not end up
Yeah.
in another relationship
And
like
here's
that?
where you need some introspection, and you also need to maybe look back at your childhood and at your
Mm.
attachment styles. You had probably had some kind of blind spot or void that made it so that when those yellowish flags started showing, you were willing to look away. And the void that I'm talking about, or the blind spot, could be that you were very desperate for love. It could be someone who has low self-esteem and has never been with a successful, handsome person before. It can be all kinds of things, something that you are longing for, or it could be like family, like having a husband and having that family life, and it's something that feels like such a void in your life that you didn't have it before, that finally when you got it, you were like, oh, but I want this thing. So because I want this thing, I'm willing to look the other way when it comes to a bunch of other you know, concerning behaviors. That's usually, so there's usually some kind of blind spot that you have to be really honest with yourself about. For some people, it can also be financial. It can be that they're with a very wealthy person, narcissists or people who have these kind of behaviors. They're often very charming, wealthy, well off, successful, and you're kind of enjoying that lifestyle. And so when the yellow flags start showing, you realize you have to give all of that up. Or you don't realize it. It all usually happens subconsciously, but you don't want to give up your lifestyle, so you just subconsciously choose to look the other way. It's not just about finances. It can be anything that's your blind spot. What is the void in your life? Is it the family? Is it finances? Is it lack of self-esteem with your looks? Is it what is it? Like, do you not have enough friends? Is it the companionship? And then you have to find a way to fill that void as much as you can yourself, so you're not so hungry when you meet your next person. Okay? Because if you're too hungry, then you'll end up saying yes to something that's not okay. But if you've already eaten, let's stick with that metaphor. If you've already eaten, right? Yeah, true. Then you're not gonna be that desperate for whatever is gonna be served. You're only gonna, go for the high quality. So yeah, so there are many factors here. So you got to make sure that you fill your own cup. That's basically what I'm saying. You got to make sure that you fill your own cup, that you do some introspection and see, okay, this person was toxic, and I was kind of a victim in this situation. But what could I have done better, or where could I have stepped in and taken care of myself?
Absolutely. Like I think back on, for me, it was like, I know you talk about love bombing. For me, it was like I was speeding that relationship along way too fast in the beginning. I didn't take the time, really solid time to really pay attention, and that's something that I'm like, I'm not repeating. It's like, and I think we really need to talk about a lot about that in, like, when you're dating, like in the beginning. Just take your time. There is no rush. Like, you need to get to know this person that was a stranger, like, that you just met. People are like strangers until like months and months. Like, right? Like, you need to get to know somebody.
There's no hurry.
What's the hurry?
It's the thing. There's no hurry, and that's such a good point, Robin. And that brings me to the next point, which is exactly this. You have to take your time, because people who do have bad intentions, they want to move fast. They want to. There's usually also an element of jealousy and control within them, right? So they want to lock you down fast. They want to move in immediately. They say, I love you after a week. Some of them do. So that's also kind of a red flag, and you gotta really, really, really take it slow. But the problem, and that is good, because over time you will get to know different sides to them. But another thing that you should also really do is you should do your research on a person when you meet them, which it can be difficult in this day and age, because people date on the apps. Before the apps, you would usually kind of have some friends in common with a person. If you start dating them, there would be some kind of commonality between the two of you. But now you can literally meet someone on the apps that you have no friends in common with. And that can be dangerous,
right?
Because it's difficult for you to do your research.
So how do you do your research, right?
You
like,
have to
you're
do the best you
Googling
can.
this person. You're like, and I think the time piece is really important, Nathalia, in this case. For instance, like, I met I met him online, and I met my partner now online. And I think, like, it's something like 70% of people are meeting their partners online now.
It's the majority.
That is the most common way to meet somebody. So the time spent with somebody is so important. Meeting their people, their family, their friends.
Exactly.
What other ways are
people
researching? Googling?
Do whatever is reasonable. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about the high-end stalking.
Yeah,
but
whatever you
I'm
can
talking
do.
about, like, see if you can check their social media.
No.
You know, do they have any likes on their photos on Instagram? Like, or is it just like one? Like, do they have any friends? Did you check their social media if you can? Try to Google them. Always do a little Google search. There's no harm in that. And then when you meet their friends, I mean, try to meet some of their friends. Try to get involved in each other's lives in that way before you commit to someone, because that's a good indicator of who they are. And maybe I'm not saying it's 100% that you can find out something, but you can at least do your best. Then at least you did everything you could. And if they still completely hid their reality from you, then you did the best you could. But yeah, and that also comes with time, like you say, Robin. If you take longer time, then there's a higher chance you're going to meet some of the friends. There's a higher chance you're going to be more involved in each other's lives, right? So that's really important.
Yeah.
Because I could also list, for example, the red flags to look out for. But the problem with that, and I also say that to my clients, is that these people, they know about red flags. They're not going to show you the red flags immediately, at least not on purpose. They're going to try and hide it.
So how are you identifying when somebody's like, am I in a healthy relationship? I really like the tips that you give around this, Nathalia. Like, how do you know when you're in a healthy relationship?
So I think,
Right?
I think in the relationship, if it's healthy, because there's always going to be bumps on the road, even in a healthy relationship, right?
Of course there is. Like, it's
A marker of a
of
healthy
course.
relationship is if, when you do have your disagreements, is it constructive? Do you learn something from it? And does your partner, and do you as well, take whatever the other person said into account and at least try to change or try to work on themselves? Because it's not about not having disagreements and not having fights. It's about having fights that lead to something constructive, that lead to getting to know each other better so you can respect each other more, learn about each other's boundaries. When two people meet each other, they don't know. They have completely different boundaries, completely different life experience. So having those kind of being really good at fighting well is a great marker of a good relationship. And I think also the way you feel about yourself, since you've been with this person, have you felt more anxious and awful about yourself, or have you felt more calm and in tune with who you are? Do they bring out the best in you, or do they bring out a very anxious, hypervigilant version of you? I think that's also a good marker of it, because in toxic relationships, they'll probably bring out a very hypervigilant, nervous version of you, whereas a healthy, stable relationship and a healthy, stable partner, they'll bring out, for the most part, a more calm, grounded version of you. So you can thrive more in a relationship like that. That's a good way to see it.
In my partnership now, I feel like it's so good. I've never had a relationship like this before. I'm just so incredibly happy. And when I was very intentional when I was wanting this new relationship, because obviously I did not want to end up in another freaking unhealthy, toxic relationship. So it was like one of my stipulations was like, I need to be with a partner that wants to grow. Like that was like one of my number one, like somebody, because I'm on a growth path. I want to be the best version of myself. And I want to, like, that is so important to me that my partner be in that, to look introspectively at himself and be like, right? Like wanting to grow. I think that is, yes. And I didn't realize I was looking for peace and just chill, calm. But now I have that. It's like a different level, right? Like you said, it's like how you feel about yourself when you're in that relationship is just such, I think, one of the biggest indicators.
And when you feel that groundedness, then you can also thrive in your life in other areas because you have that extra energy. Toxic relationships, they take up all of your energy. You don't have room for anything else. You're just struggling to get by at your job. You're just struggling to maintain your friendships. You don't have any extra energy to give to the world when you're in a relationship like that. So it's wonderful to be in a good relationship where you have that energy and you can build your business or advance at work and
Yes, I'm not questioning his intentions. I'm not questioning him at all. Like really, it's just like you feel solid. But that's a good point, Nathalia, because something that I've learned from you is around how the people pleasers are often with somebody with narcissistic behaviors, right? And when I was in that relationship, that was the people pleasing in me. That was, constantly, like I think about like just reaching or trying to fix this and like, okay, let's let's get another counselor on board, or Robin, you can do better. Because I can like I'm very skilled at doing many things and like helping and pleasing.
Yeah.
So that was that side of me that was like completely hypervigilant and just like I could fix this,
overcompensating for his lack of enthusiasm for making the relationship work right. Then you were overdoing it and trying to do everything you could. Yeah, I mean, people pleasing is also a way to stay emotionally safe. So when you're with let's call it a dangerous person, I don't know to what level your ex was dangerous, but then we do want to stay safe, at least emotionally. And people pleasing is one of the, it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So when you're fawning, you're staying safe. It's a way to stay safe in the world, right? So when you're not with someone, right? So when you're not with someone where you are in danger, then you don't have to people please. You don't have to plead for people. And of course, it's also something that comes from within, like we talked about before, Robin, that it's, of course, something I'm also a recovering people pleaser myself. So, I mean, it's, of course, something we have to look at within our own behaviors as well. But it's also the other person can also really bring it up in us if we feel unsafe around them. Then that's probably your go-to. It's definitely my go-to. If I feel unsafe, then I'll people please. That's part of it too.
So you just recently got married, right? How long ago, Nathalia?
It was in January we got married. We actually started the process 2 years ago, but we got married in India, and the paperwork here, it was insane because I'm from Denmark, so just the paperwork needed for that marriage to go through, it was pretty crazy. So it took us a little over 2 years.
Wow.
Get married.
Yep.
And we finally made it. So now we've been married for about 10 months.
Good for you. And so tell us about your relationship.
Yeah. So it was funny when you said before that now in your relationship, it's really important to you to be with someone who also wants to grow and, work on themselves. And that's definitely something that I appreciate about my husband, is that we have different approaches to this. He's more into meditation, and I mean, I like meditation, but it's not my primary, road towards self-development, but he's really into breath work and stuff. But he has his own, he follows a guru and this kind of stuff. I don't do that, but he has his own way of looking inwards. And I really love that when we do have fights, because we do fight, but I really love that he does think about it afterwards, and then he tries to look within himself and correct whatever was his part of that fight, whatever it was that he needed to fix. So we are a good example of two people who got together who are both flawed. We both have our own issues and insecure attachment styles that we're healing from, etc. But we're both doing the work.
Right.
And our relationship has gotten better and better and better the longer we've been together, and more calm and peaceful the longer we've been together. And I love that too.
Yes.
So it's not like we started with a, honeymoon phase and then it just went downhill. It's kind of the opposite, that in the beginning there were a lot of bumps and we had to have a lot of fights, and we also have different cultures. He's from India, I'm from Denmark. East, West, it's just that when it comes to relationships, I don't think you can find two more different ways of approaching it than these two cultures, Denmark and India. But we've overcome all of that now, and so I feel like it's beautiful that it's growing in that direction, that it just gets better and better and better, and we help each other heal. I feel not directly. It's not like we're sitting with each other and doing it, but just like, even with the conflicts, we're facing ourselves and dealing with our own stuff. So I I'm very happy with that. And I would say that I'm in a happy marriage, and that feels great.
Oh my
That
goodness.
feels really, really
I
good.
just think
And
that's so great.
yeah,
I'm happy. I'm so happy for you. I think if we
thank you. And
if we can cultivate a relationship like that, where both of you are dedicated to your growth and your relationship is a vessel of growth for both of you, right? I mean, it's enabling
yeah,
you, like you
yeah,
said, to heal and grow within
yeah,
yourself because you're being
mhm,
supported and your mirror is your
yeah,
partner. That's showing you, okay, these are your areas where you can grow, and I'm going to help you
mhm,
with that. I just think that's like, if you
yeah,
could look at it that way, and if it
yeah,
actually is that way,
yeah,
like, what, that's
yeah,
incredible. That's the dream, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, exactly. And
Really,
it sound I mean, and it is great, and it also sounds great, but of course
it's
in
not a
reality
fairy
when you
tale.
do
I'm not
have
talking
those
about the
fights,
fairy tale here.
yeah, right? Because when you do have those fights, it can get like it's not that fun,
No.
but ultimately again it's about what are you getting out of it? Is it constructive? Are you getting closer? Or are you growing further
Mhm.
apart by doing what you're doing?
Oh,
So
I really like that.
it's so true what you're saying.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
So I really appreciate that.
yeah. Well, I'm just so glad that we had this time together. Really, Natalia. I,
Me
I
too,
really,
Robin.
I really do honor the work that you're doing, and you're such a beautiful person. So, thank you, thank you.
Likewise. Likewise, Robin, and you're doing this podcast and I saw you had this, I mean, so many great initiatives and you're spreading the word about relationships and I'm sure providing lots of people with many, many helpful tools with the podcast that you do.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to close with a blessing, and this is really for with a lot of your words and your teachings, Natalia. So, may we know, if you have been through or are in a toxic relationship, you're not alone. There is access to resources and professionals to help build self-awareness of what has happened and steps to a journey of recovery. May we know that recovery from toxic relationships is different for everyone, but what is essential is time to go within yourself, reflect, and get to know yourself once again, right? And may we make loving ourselves more fully and completely the utmost priority. By doing so, we can recognize what's not working in our lives and then choose the people, situations, and relationships that do allow us to thrive. So may we all cultivate thriving relationships. I wish that for everybody. Um, and blessings to
I
you and
love
blessings to
that.
everyone.
Blessings to you. Yeah, and for everyone. I love that. What a beautiful, yeah, that was very beautiful
Thank
and
you,
so true.
Natalia.
You're all there.
Thank you so much for listening. Visit realloveready.com to continue learning with us. Please rate and review this podcast. Your feedback helps us get you the tools and guidance you need to form more loving relationships and create positive change in your life. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.